Good evening, explorers! I'm Explorer Torie, and welcome to another native Nevada nature, where we highlight one plant or one animal species that's right here in our wonderful state. We alternate every other week. If you've never been here before, this is a presentation brought to you by the Nevada Conservation League. Whether you're stuck in quarantine or haven't got a chance to go out in the woods, I'm here to explore the world for you and open your eyes to many new plants or animals you may have never heard of, or some iconic desert plants or animals. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, go ahead and type them in the Facebook comment section, and I will get to them at the end of this presentation. All right, let's get started. Once again, this is an educational presentation for all ages to watch, enjoy, and learn. So I hope you at least do one of those things. But if you were with Explorer Torie 2 weeks ago, you might have learned a little bit about desert mistletoe. This is a parasitic plant that can be found across southern Nevada desert, and it plays a key role within our ecosystem because it provides a lot of food for animals and insects where they may otherwise not have any other options. And there is one particular bird species that is so needed for desert mistletoe that the two are basically entwined. And that bird species is Phainopepla. And you might be going, Explorer Torie, what did you just say? The word is Phainopepla. I'll say it much slower. It's Phainopepla. Phainopepla. And its genus species is Phainopepla nitens. The word Phainopepla comes from the Greek word for shining robe, which is a fitting characterization for its shiny jet black plumage of the adult male. Nitens is Latin for sleek, bright, shining. So basically the translations for its genus species is sleek, shiny robe. Phainopepla was first described by William Swainson in 1838, and they are part of a family called the silky flycatchers. All of them have that silky look to their plumage, and Phainopeplas are the only U.S. representative in the family Tylogonidae, also known as the silky flycatchers. They are not related to the North American flycatchers. Their nearest common ancestor are the waxwings. They also have the glossy look to their wings. Phainopeplas are also related to palm chats, which only occur in the island of Hispaniola. Pretty interesting. So now that you know a little bit about Phainopepla, let me teach you how you can identify one in the wild. All right, so these are great representations of both the male and female. Phainopepla are known as a very striking bird. Their most noticeable feature is the crest on their head. They pretty much have like a little mohawk sticking out. And they have long tails that are slender and are in an upright posture when they perch. The bills are short and slender. The male, which is pictured on the left-hand side, is a glossy black color and has white wing patches that are visible when it flies. I'll show you some pictures of that later. The female is a plain gray color, which is pictured on the right-hand side, and has a lighter gray wing patch. Both sexes have red eyes, very striking. Of course, it's more noticeable on the female than the male, but both have those characteristics. The immatures are very similar to their parents, but they tend to have brownish eyes, not red so much. And then here's a little bit of the information on them. They are about 7 to 8 inches in length. They weigh anywhere between 0.6 and 1 ounce. And their wingspan is about 10 to 11 inches. You can see my little sizing chart over here just to get a general idea of the size and the length of the Phainopepla. All right. I have this map brought to you by allaboutbirds.org that shows kind of the region where you can find Phainopepla. They are a southwestern bird. They're found mainly in the desert climates, as you could tell by the map. It can be found in central California, southern Nevada, southern Utah, southern New Mexico, western Texas, south to Baja, and into Mexico. For their habitat, Phainopepla actually highlights one of their most interesting traits. They are one of the only handful of birds worldwide that breed in two distinct habitats at different times of the year. In February and April, they breed in the Mojave and the Sonoran Desert lowlands. When the temperatures get hotter and the mistletoe berries supplies they dwindle, they retreat to higher elevations. And beginning about May through July in their breeding season, they go to oak and sycamore canyons. When they are here in the wintertime, you can usually find them in desert washes and places that have mistletoe on it. So those are mesquite trees, acacia, palo verde, smoke tree, and ironwood. All right, let's talk a little bit about the life cycle of a Phainopepla. What is it like to be a Phainopepla from day to day? As I mentioned before, they do feed on those mistletoe berries. They feed on them while they're perched, but they also catch insects and eat those as well. They catch the insects mid-air by flying out of their perch and pursuing them with a quick, fluttery flight. They are part of the silky flycatchers, and as you can guess, the flycatchers eat mostly flies. However, that's not to say that Phainopepla doesn't eat flies. That's just not their main food source. In the desert in early winter, a single Phainopepla will vigorously defend their berry patches from intruders, repelling them from other species, larger birds, or even other animals. And in the spring breeding season, as pairs form, they will defend the territory together. And springtime mating, let's talk about nesting. So male displays an over-nesting territory, their mating display, as flying high in circles and zigzags. In courtship, the male may chase the female in flight, and while perched, the male may feed the female. Their nest is often placed in the center of a clump of mistletoe, where it's very difficult to see. Sometimes it's even forked in a branch. The nest height varies depending on the habitat. Typically, it's about 4 to 12 feet above ground in desert mesquites, and higher, about 50 feet, in streamlined oaks and sycamores. The nest built is primarily built by the female. It's a rather small, shallow cup full of twigs, leaves, weeds, plant fibers, and bound together lined with animal hair or plant down. The eggs, which I have pictured here in the bottom right-hand corner, that's what they look like. Usually they lay about 2 to 3, rarely 4, and they are about a grayish color and heavily dotted with lavender and black. Incubation is done by both parents, and it takes about 14 to 16 days for them to hatch. Males are noted to do most of the incubation during daylight hours. Once the young are up, they are fed by both parents, receiving mostly crushed insects at first and then the mistletoe berries. And the young leave the nest at about 19 to 20 days after hatching. All right, let's talk about bird calls. If you want to hear more bird calls, I definitely recommend going to allaboutbirds.com, going to the Phainopepla page. But I do have one for you guys to listen to. They're songs, which males sing many syllabled rambling song that includes a distinctive whistled wee-ha given throughout the day from regular song perches. Their calls are mostly a quiet whoop given in many contexts, and then there's a hard shrilling chirr that is mostly used against other Phainopeplas intruding on their territory, and females are given a softer version of that same type of call. During nest building, both sexes click their bill rapidly while sitting on the nest, kind of a similar behavior that waxwings do. The cool thing about Phainopepla is they actually mimic the calls of other birds, including red-tailed hawks, northern mockingbirds, northern flicks, Gambel's quail, mourning doves, verdins, acorn woodpeckers, scrub jays, and American kestrels. Yes, it's hard to believe that all those different types of sounds can come from one species. But I do have one sound. I think this is one of their calls that I'll let you guys listen to. So take a look at the call of a Phainopepla. Did you hear that hard trilling sound? So next time you go out, try to hear those sounds. So maybe if you even could spot a Phainopepla or even hear a Phainopepla in your area. All right, I touched base on this a little bit, but now it's time to talk about just how important Phainopepla is to mistletoe. Both of them have a symbiotic relationship. They pretty much depend on each other. The mistletoe berries are the bird's main food source for the winter. As such, the Phainopepla is one of the birds primarily responsible for the distribution of desert mistletoe seeds. Desert mistletoe provides Phainopeplas with food, water, shelter, and nesting sites. And in return, the Phainopeplas spread desert mistletoe to other trees through their droppings. Phainopeplas have developed a specialized digestive system that can allow them to process many mistletoe berries while leaving the seeds intact for dispersal. Actually, a single Phainopepla can eat more than 1,000 berries per day. Goodness, that's a lot of berries. Their digestive tracts are very specialized and adapted to rapidly processing the berries, so much so that they can pass the undigested inner seed within 12 minutes. Yeah, these guys are little factories farming out seeds for the desert mistletoe. When a remnant seed is dispersed onto a branch with a suitable host tree, it germinates, penetrates through the bark, and taps into the tree's tissue to absorb water, minerals, and nutrients. Because Phainopepla disproportionately visits larger trees, kind of so they can perch up and look around in their surrounding area, they generally stay close to the existing mistletoe, and therefore the desert mistletoe tends to be found in clusters of mature trees. And that's all because of Phainopepla. All right, let's talk a little bit about the conservation status of Phainopepla. Currently, they are not listed under the Endangered Species Act at all. And on the red list, they are listed as least concern. The organization Partners in Flight had this to say about Phainopepla populations. They have declined by an estimated 8% between 1970 and 2016. The global breeding population is estimated to be about 3.2 million. And they have a rate of about 10 to 20 on their Continental Concern score, indicating that it is a species of low conservation concern. Habitat loss from conversion of desert riparian areas for agricultural use is what they state as one of the lead reductions to the number of size of the breeding and wintering populations. However, it is to be noted that Nevada actually solely protects this species, as Phainopepla is listed as a wild state protected species and is a Bureau of Land Management sensitive species. And the Nevada Department of Wildlife had to say on this: protection of mesquite habitat, remember mesquite is one of the trees with desert mistletoe, is essential to preserving Phainopepla. The Phainopepla is a lead species on the Clark County Multiple Species Habitat Conservation Plan. Oof, what a mouthful. a plan that is designed to benefit wildlife while accommodating growth in urban Las Vegas. This plan was exacted to prevent future listings of wildlife species as endangered or threatened. Population trends of Phainopepla are currently being researched in Nevada. Here in Nevada, the main threat to Phainopepla is habitat loss due to urban and some agricultural land development, fires, off-road vehicle damage, illegal cutting of mistletoe for fuel wood, and construction of gravel pits. Basically anything involving growth and development into our desert regions and getting rid of a lot of the habitat that the Phainopepla resides in. So it's very important for us here in Nevada to preserve the Phainopepla. They have been identified as a key species to helping with the desert mistletoe populations, and therefore we are developing plans to help with mesquite habitat to continue the growth of desert mistletoe and preserve Phainopeplas to bring more desert mistletoe, which will preserve many more animals within our ecosystem. So the next time you go walking around or checking out some hikes and you see this big nasty clump that's in the tree, very unattractive, ugly, just note that 1, you might be able to see a Phainopepla perched right on top of that mistletoe, and 2, that ugly thing will provide food for the Phainopepla and plenty of other species in our ecosystem. All right, that's all I have for Phainopepla. I'm opening up the floor to questions. If anybody has any questions on Phainopepla, desert mistletoe, mesquite riparian areas, or any conservation efforts in general, please type them in the Facebook comment section right now. Just to let you know, a lot of the pictures and video that were taken in this presentation you can find at the Desert National Wildlife Refuge. This was taken at the Corn Creek Field Station. They have a lot of hiking or walking trails there and a ton of desert mistletoe. So anytime you get a chance to see some desert mistletoe, you have a good chance of seeing some Phainopepla. So highly recommend going out there during the winter time, seeing if you can spot any birds. I've also seen Phainopepla in the southern Nevada area at the Wetlands Park, Henderson Bird Viewing Preserve. Basically anywhere you see that big old clump, you might be able to see some Phainopepla. All right, looks like we don't have any questions for this round. No worries. If you have a question after this presentation, you can go ahead and just type it in the comment section and we will get to it after the video. But if you want to learn more about birding in general, I highly recommend going to my event that's happening February 6th at 1 p.m. This is the Southern Nevada Bird Viewing Guide. This is presented by Red Rock Audubon, who are the experts in birding. They're going to be teaching us on how to do birding here in Southern Nevada. They're going to be specifically targeting backyard birding, so in case you're social distancing, you won't be left out in counting birds. And once you have the tools to start learning how to count some birds, highly recommend a week later participating in the Great Backyard Bird Count. It's a global event where everybody will be counting birds and contributing to the world population of information for birds. So even if you count one in your backyard, we'd love to have you contribute and learn a new hobby that all ages of people can learn and love. All right, thank you guys for joining us for another Native Nevada Nature. I'm Tori with the Climate Action Team of the Nevada Conservation League, and I enjoy you guys coming out each week to hear about some presentations. Next month is Black History Month, so we're going to be doing a little special highlight on some important biologists, ecologists that are found within our ecosystems. And usually they'll have a relation to the plant species or animal species that we'll be focusing on. But until then, keep on exploring.